Guys, if you think the principals here in the States are bad, be glad you didn't have my headmistress in the Czech Republic. The headmistress ruled over the school I attended, and I'm saying that in all seriousness. Think I'm exaggerating? Guys, the teachers were terrified of her. Terrified. I kid you not. It was like she was blackmailing them into working there or something, based on how they reacted to her presence. They already worked hard as it was, but in her presence, they'd sweat bullets. My classmates were all afraid of her too. One of them told me that the headmistress had fired teachers just because they disagreed with her. She said it was the same for students. If they stepped a toe out of line, they were kicked out. Just like that. The teachers were afraid they'd get fired, and the students were afraid they'd get kicked out of the school. As it turned out, the school was privately owned. By the headmistress. She chose the curriculum, the teachers, everything. She literally ruled over the school. If that won't incite terror, I don't know what will. She was the definition of a petty tyrant. I even checked the definition, and it fits her to a T. I picked up on the sense of fear and self-preservation everyone else had very quickly. We had specific classes every other day, the kind of schooling that US schools, or at least my old school, had yet to begin doing. We would do half of our listed classes one day, then the other half the next day, and switch back and forth. I think we called them Day A or Day B or something like that. One of the classes we had was about the Czech language. For whatever reason, she was teaching that class. Maybe they didn't have a teacher, or maybe she just liked being in charge that much. Whatever her reasons, no one was happy about it. Well, except her, obviously. She looked like a fat, bleach blonde cat with electric blue eyeshadow and bright red lipstick, stuffed into a fancy dress suit. I hope my classmates see this and get a kick out of it. Anyway, she was always practically purring with her over-grandirized aura of cheap perfume and fake smiles, made all the more frightening by her penciled-in eyebrows. I admit this cat version probably isn't all that intimidating, so instead imagine Yubaba from Spirited Away, but with a white blonde, violently spiky pixie haircut. Still don't believe that she was a terror? We had lookouts. That's how bad it was. On days we knew she would be coming to teach, the boys would take turns one day at a time, standing on the counter that ran along the wall that was shared with the hallway, just to look over the cupboards where a long window had been placed in order to glimpse the hall without being spotted. If he saw her, he'd say quietly that she was coming, jump down from the counter, and everyone would scramble to put games away and be sitting perfectly at their desk, waiting quietly by the time she arrived. During those breaks, in between classes, or on our free periods, I brought tiny face cards to play Go Fish, and jacks, so we could play them between periods. I got pretty good at jacks. And that was our routine. Normally, it all went well. But one day, we were not so lucky. One of the boys, who I'll call Brian, even though his real name is actually pretty cool, was on lookout duty. We were all just sitting at our desks, actually working or reading, which did happen fairly often. We weren't slackers, but you can't work all the time. So we're just sitting there when suddenly Brian half fell down from the counter in his haste to get to the floor, just as the door opened, and in walked the headmistress. As she was walking toward the teacher's desk, she spoke to Brian. "Brian, what were you doing up there?" She asked it in Czech, but my Czech then was rough, but the context made it obvious. My Czech at present is rusted like the guard weapons in Breath of the Wild, so I'll speak the Czech in English. Brian said, "I bounced a bouncing ball and it got stuck up there." I forgot to mention, but we had ready excuses for this scenario. We just hadn't actually been caught before that moment. We'd been pretty prepared, but I wasn't prepared for what happened next.